Hey, NISN folks. This is hopefully a brief 10-minute history of UbD at NACA video, along with Val's presentation about how UbD NACA went about creating its original curriculum for that community, and Raices went about creating their Shinatsuli curriculum that Karina will overview. I'm going to try to piece together some big ideas about how NACA adopted UbD and why NACA adopted UbD. So it starts with some big questions. We knew from the beginning, and granted I was not here, but NACA knew from the beginning that we were not going to do things the APS way. And that meant a couple of things. It meant that our student day was not going to be defined by the regular course schedule, that instead of ELA there was going to be Native Lit and Indigenous Language and Indigenous History and Indigenous Science. And we knew that we weren't going to pull those off the shelf. And so we were faced with the question of how do we design this curriculum based upon expert knowledge. So we also had this idea that, or this reality that we had a collection of content experts. So if you think about what Arlen John does in Indigenous history, or what Whisper did and will continue to do in girls' personal wellness, those folks have deep both experiential understandings and academic understandings of how to bring content to students in any number of regards. Experiential learning in terms of texts that they bring to the class. So we had content experts on hand. The issue was that many of those content experts were not curriculum designers. And so we had these couple of key questions. The first one was, how do we build content experts like Arlen and Whisper into curriculum designers, where they have a sense of how to build cohesive, comprehensive curriculum that is backward designed from its outcomes. And the other one was, how do we build institutional knowledge around our outcomes, assessments, and plans for learning so that there is continuity from one NACA era to the next, so that a sixth grader or a kindergartner or a 12th grader's experience in Indigenous science is not dependent necessarily on the individual, but on a well thought out curriculum that might change from person to person, but has some overarching continuity between teachers as they come and go. So with those questions, there's also the history of UbD at NACA, and I think this history actually fits well with the way that many schools go about the process of adapting or adopting a framework for curriculum design. And so in 2006, 2007, this was the opening year of NACA. It was very much a let's build this plane while we fly it sort of attitude. And this is, again, not from my own understanding, but from what folks have told me about that experience. It was employing what teachers had picked up throughout their careers, both in education and out of education, and implementing it into the classroom as best they could. In 2007, 2008, there was the introduction of understanding by design. But this was coined by Arlen for me as I turn in the same UbD every quarter and nobody knows the difference. And so this is a huge issue with original curriculum design, is you have a framework and somewhere behind it there's intentionality, but the effort hasn't been put in to make sure that teachers understand what they're doing and why they're doing it. And then there is so the next phase for us was let's invest in UbD year by year. And this is where I started to come into contact with NACA. So as you can see, it was an incremental process. I mean, we didn't say by the end of 2008, 2009, we're going to be expert designers. We said in 2008, we're going to focus on the three big stages of design and thinking about curriculum in general. But we're really going to focus on stage one, and we're going to ask, what is an essential question? What is an enduring understanding? How do I write measurable outcomes? And so forth. The next year, we took on the three stages in a sort of overview regard, and then we delved into stage two, which is about assessment evidence. And then we finally wrapped up with the three stages and stage three in particular. And the way this could look as though it was a bullet pointed, really linear, straightforward, everybody bought in kind of thing, but it was it was very much a process of working with individuals, working through various folks' blind spots and various folks' dissonance with adopting something that was Western, like understanding by design. And that continues to this day. Anyway, so the 2011, we introduced our first NACA Summer Curriculum Institute. So we paid $2,000 for each teacher to develop a year-long and a Unit 1 curriculum along the lines of the UbD 3 stages of design. Ever since then, up until today, we now have the NISN Summer Curriculum Institute. It's based upon UbD, and again, it allows for a space for content experts from across our network in our best way, when we do this right, to have conversations about what native lit looks like at NACA in 6th grade and what native lit looks like in Navajo, New Mexico at DEEP in 6th grade, and have some cross-network conversations to bring experts together and help them to plan out what the year looks like in terms of student learning. So all of this has developed out into a couple of resources. One is the NACA Curriculum Hub on the NACA Google Drive, which I'm going to show you in just a moment, and the other is the NISN Resource Hub, which I'm also going to show you. So I'll get out of this presentation, and I'm going to take you first to, well, actually, first I'll just say this. There's also a NACA Master Curriculum Map, and this is something that we couldn't have without Understanding by Design. Understanding by Design gives us some basic terminology that we can share from Arlen to Stacy Leslie, who teaches math, to Whisper, to Paula Maxman, who teaches math, to Sebastian, who teaches Indigenous science. And those criteria are year-long big ideas. So all of our curriculum is built upon big ideas, year-long essential questions, and priority skills that students should take away. So if we scroll down, we can see that this on the left we have college engagement, and then we have Indigenous history, and then we have Indigenous languages, and that's followed by, looks like I need to reload real quick. So anyway, you can scroll down and I'll share this document with you, but basically what you're able to see is, and I'll use Indigenous history as an example, you're able to see the course. Here's our 12th grade capstone with Arlen. Here are his big ideas. Here are his essential questions. So these are the questions that drive inquiry for students and that ultimately frame the outcomes that he wants for students. As you dig down, you'll see that this is actually, this Understanding by Design process, one of the key facets of it is that you don't have to be teaching a Western content area in order to apply the curricular skills behind Understanding by Design. So Arlen's big ideas in 11th grade Indigenous epistemology are Indigenous epistemology, liberation education, circular philosophy, the concept of indigenizing, and the concept of decolonizing. And then you can see that his essential question is built off that, and his outcomes are related to his students' abilities to research and do text analysis within the literature around liberation, Indigenous epistemology, etc. So you can, as if you scroll through this, you'll eventually find yourself in Native Lit, you'll find yourself in Indigenous science, and you'll see sort of a bird's eye view, 30,000-foot view of what happens at NACA on a regular basis to do a number of things, infuse Western standards with Indigenous ideas, but to place us in a curriculum that represents our mission and doesn't represent what you would find in public school X. The next resource that I wanted to show you is that NISN Resource Hub. So this is, you can find this at the link here, which I'll share with you all. What you'll find is a sort of statement about NISN schools, about Indigenous education, but you'll also find some further resources on Indigenous education, and then primary to this little presentation is the content. So if you want to see what's happening in Native literature, you can go here, find Native Lit, and then you can see what the essential questions are that guide and enduring understandings that guide K through 12 Native Lit at our school. And then you can also find our actual UBDs along with an overview video from one of our master teachers, Sarah Caldwell. So just real quick, the first question is, what are the characteristics of Indigenous heroes? What is the value of studying Native literature? Do the texts we've read this year reflect and or shape my identity? So you can see that through the constructs of understanding by design, we're accessing a curriculum that allows our students to interact with ideas that perhaps and hopefully get them to be secure in their identity, consider their holistic health and their community wants for their education. You can look up any of these and see what's happening at NACA to the current day. And the last one that I'll show you, the last one that I will show you, is the actual Google Drive. And so every summer during the NISN Summer Curriculum Institute, I got cut off there, but just for a few moments, I wanted to take you through the Curriculum Hub. So this is in 2019-2020. These are the templates that our teachers use to complete year-long and Unit 1 curricula. And then when you look inside each of these, you'll find the actual curriculum that the teachers have submitted. So if we go into middle school products and Native literature for 8th grade, you'll find a year-long curriculum plus a Unit 1 and a Unit 2 curriculum that was just due. And same thing for all of these. And then we have our we have our mid products, our high products, our elementary products, our languages, our Indigenous history is separate for this year. So just to wrap up, go back to our presentation really quick. There are ongoing issues that we face and something that you all might consider. One is folding new teachers into, or new to NACA teachers that missed the years of intensive PD into what understanding by design is and how we go about the process. So if we don't have ongoing professional development about what UbD is, how do we expect our new teachers to understand what we're trying to do as a whole school? And that has been an ongoing issue. Finding a place for canned curriculum. So we have Tier 3 students, Tier 3 programs, where students are involved in canned math programs, canned language programs, and so establishing how exactly those become NACAized or indigenized has been an issue. And then, there's ongoing teacher dissonance, which I think is a healthy thing about using a Western tool to create curriculum for an indigenous school. And so we have those ongoing discussions, and some folks are 100% bought in, and others are less so. But we continue to try to push into the idea of saying that we need to be deliberate in order to create cohesive, comprehensive curriculum and build out our institutional knowledge and be able to share it with our sister schools, which you all are developing as we speak. So if you have questions, let me know. Pop me an email. Thanks.